This is the widest lane in town. When you look back, you can see it. Lots of big houses right and left. The rich and noble people like to live here, in that street, and around the market square. They were called patricians, the rich and noble families. And the biggest privately owned building in the whole city, it's right opposite. It's that green one. And there's something special. Next to the entrance, there are these chains with a handle. These were the doorbells, like people used to have them long ago. If one pulls them, the bells inside ring. But not anymore, because everybody tries. And the people who live there, they don't like them. They fix them. Interesting detail is, those who own the house and live inside are descendants of the noble family, which moved in more than 300 years ago, in 1660. And they're still in there. Not the same people, but the same family, which is really amazing, even here. And there's something else very typical, very obvious. All the big houses have it, like there. I mean the wide gate. It had to be so wide that a carriage could drive into the courtyard. Imagine a big courtyard behind a big house. People got a barn and a stable, animals and vegetables. A city in the old days was like a big village. Sure, it didn't look like one. It was much bigger, walled, and fortified. But it smelled like one. And even worse, because there was a tannery and a skinnery in town. Oh. The stench coming from there was really outstanding. And the streets were out of dirt, no cobblestones. The animals were in the streets in the daytime. Thousands of poultry doing their part everywhere. And the people were throwing it out of the window. Oh. Everything. In the early morning, it was kind of dangerous. Walk in the streets. Because after people got up, they emptied their chamber pumps through the window into the street. And they were told to give a short warning before, so they were kind of fair. But seconds later it happened. And it's kind of tricky too, because when somebody shouts, "Down," people in the street look up. And it was all in the streets, all that dirt and crap. Just one idea to get rid of it. They used to have a gutter in the street. Twice a week, everyone had to sweep the dirt laying in front of his house into that gutter. Then they hoped for next rain to come and wash it downhill in the moat or in the valley. But that was more a hope than a good idea. It didn't really work. In July, August, when it was hot and dry, nothing went downhill. But it stank so horrible that all the rich people who could afford having a solid house on the countryside went out of town. And because of all the dirt in the streets and the stored food in the houses, and you have to know, people had to store grain for a year to last, for the whole family, to be ready for a siege or a bad harvest. So there was a lot of storage in the attics of the houses and a lot of dirt in the streets. And that was most attractive for who? Rats. Rats. There was an uncountable number of rats in a medieval city. Scientists say when you see one, there are 1,000 behind that one that you don't see. They saw thousands. And more. And what happened because of the rats? Plague. Bubonic or black plague. It was a special kind of flea living on rats. The flea got this bacteria, killing all these millions of people. And it had started far from here, in Mongolia. And over the Silk Road, this disease made its way down to Russia. And when they were loading up ships in Crimea with goods from the Silk Road, determined to go to Italy, these rats went on board as well. And a lot of these ships never arrived, because the whole crew died on the way. Ghost ships. But a few made it into an Italian harbor, like Messina in Sicily. And the rats went on land, and there it was. That's how the plague came to, on the ships of the merchants. Between 1347 and 1352, which was the first wave of plague coming, almost half of Europe's population died. Average mortality in cities was 40%. On the countryside, oftentimes worse. There were areas also around Rothenberg where nobody survived. And the wolves came back into these empty villages, which fell back to nature, lost forever. And the hardest part was, for more than 90% of those who got the plague and died, there was no priest showing up to give them last rites. Because the priests and the doctors were the first victims, because they went close to these people, into their houses, to their beds, trying to cure them or help them into the next dimension, but it was contagious. And there weren't that many priests in the city. Pretty soon they were all gone. That meant for all the rest, no last rites. And that meant going where? Hell. Direct. For eternity. And that was the real drama about this disease. Not to die, but like this. Knowing hell is next. This dimension of fear that these people had, we cannot imagine. Rational as we are nowadays about this kind of things. And besides plague, there were other diseases. Lots of wars and hunger. People could die from simple infections, like bad teeth. Life expectancy was low. Childhood mortality high. And so on. I could continue with that. But I don't want to make everything negative. There might have been also some positive aspects of life. But I don't know any. So my conclusion is, and I think you agree, there were no good old days. All right? I have one last thing. You know, there's a phrase that you oftentimes use in your daily life, and it comes from the time of the plague. You know, when people got it, it started with symptoms like a cold. People started sneezing, they got fever. So when you say to somebody who's sneezing, God bless you, that comes from a time when it could mean, hey, gone soon.